Baux-de-Provence in the south of France is a remarkable sight. A unique stone village dramatically perched 750 feet high on a rocky plateau, with a history dating to the Middle Ages and a prehistory going back probably 8,000 years. Baux was once a powerful medieval castle that controlled vast territories, including 79 other villages throughout Provence, but now it's a tiny, quaint ruin. Charming as could be, this cozy hilltop hamlet is a major tourist attraction with 1.5 million annual visitors, making it the second most popular site in the region after the Pope's Palace in Avignon. This tells you that it's very worthwhile, but it can get uncomfortably crowded unless you take preventative action, like visiting in the off-season or arriving early or late in the day. The Baux-de-Provence is a small village. It's up on the cliff. Only has one main pedestrian lane and a couple of smaller branching lanes. A village built of stone in the cliff. It's only about 3,000 feet long and about 700 feet wide, and that's it. The medieval village was built up from the 10th century, and by the peak of occupation during the late 14th century, nearly 3,000 people lived in this small space. Although the permanent population nowadays living inside the old town is only 20 people. The plateau was naturally easy to defend due to vertical cliffs all around, and was further reinforced with stone walls and castle as protection from invasion by Franks, Catalans, Saracens, and marauding bandits of the chaotic Middle Ages. However, the castle was finally attacked and destroyed in the 1600s by Cardinal Richelieu and his large, well-armed French army, leaving us with dramatic ruins of the old castle, which they called the Chateau, and it retains a wild setting among rugged rocky hills. You will not get lost because there's only one main pedestrian lane, about 300 meters long, with a few short side alleys leading to viewpoints. You really don't need much of a guidebook to help get through the smallest of Provençal destinations. Just follow your nose and wander about. But we do have some suggestions. There are two parts to visit in Les Baux: the free village with its pedestrian lanes, shops, restaurants, and old buildings, and the paid attraction, the ruins of that castle on the plateau where you can see some of the old buildings and fortifications. The diagram shows the village area circled below and the chateau on the hillside above. This town model from the museum provides some perspective on the setting, and then looking down at the model from above, we see the village and adjacent castle. Shown on the map, here's a logical walking route through the lanes, entering through the front gate, walk along, and then over to a lookout, and then continue walking to the end of that lane where you reach the museum and castle entrance. Pay that admission fee if you like, walk around the castle grounds, the ruins of the chateau, and then back out to the main lanes again through a slightly different route, returning back to the front entrance. The Tourist Information Office is just inside the front gate with a lot of helpful information, so you might want to stop in and say hello. I wonder, how old are these buildings?
The village here at the entrance is Renaissance.
Renaissance, okay.
Yes, and when you pass through the castle at the top, it's Middle Ages. It was for defense.
For defense,
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So first there was just the castle.
Yes.
And the buildings around the castle.
And after, the village Renaissance. If I will show you on the map. Here we are right here at number 1. Okay.
Yeah, right.
And you continue that way.
Well, that's great. You're very kind. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
You could walk back and forth and see the entire village in a half hour if you're in a rush, but you'll also want to spend at least 45 minutes visiting the fortress ruins and little museum, plus some time for shopping and snacking and sightseeing and looking at the views. Now it's all very peaceful here, especially in the month of November. If you come in the summer, these lanes are going to be chock-a-block with other visitors. But in the off-season, it's really possible to have the place just about to yourself. nice way to see it. So you can come in March or April would be lovely, late October, November. Imagine these narrow lanes in the busy summer season. Instead of being empty, they'd be filled with hundreds, perhaps thousands of tourists from all over the world drawn to this magical little village of Les Baux. It would not be as pretty a sight, I'm afraid, in the summertime, so try and get here off-season, even in the winter. It is open all year round, every day of the week. Of course, if your schedule demands that you have to travel in June or July, then by all means try and minimize the crowds. You can arrive early in the morning first thing, or come very late in the day is also good with that beautiful twilight lighting. That would be nice. But in the off-season, there is just hardly anybody around, except for the occasional stranger passing by who was a most welcome sight. And of course, you will find always plenty of shops. Anywhere there's tourists, you're going to get a lot of shops. And these are some very nice souvenir shops. Among the traditional items for sale here, you'll see a lot of the Provençal fabrics, the beautiful colors, the light pastels, the yellows, the oranges, the greens. And they have some designs with the olive tree motifs, which is so important to this area. A great item that's much lighter to pack and easy to stuff in your suitcase is Potpourri. That's one of the specialties of the area with the flowers that grow here in the south of France. It's a great perfume district. So the Potpourri is all local, the fabrics are local, and inexpensive, great little gifts, easy to pack, and it smells great. Now, of course, there's always the t-shirts to buy. That's a popular present. Anything that says Les Baux on it, little models of the town, a cooking apron. You look around in these shops and you're bound to find something that you'll never see at home. It makes a unique gift. There's a great variety of products at a fair price. We found that the prices here were just about the same as in the bigger cities in Provence. So when you see a deal that's attractive to you, don't hesitate thinking you'll get a better price later. Just go ahead and buy it. Another display is this bauxite-rich boulder. The stone in these hills has a lot of bauxite, so it turns out that in the 1820s, this became an important area to mine for aluminum. And so this precious new mineral was named after the location they found it in. And thus we call it bauxite today. Well, it's interesting to learn some history, learn about the name, do a little shopping, but you'll probably find, like in most visits anywhere, the main activity is just walking and looking around. Just walk along through the lanes of this special village, watching the walls and windows and doorways passing by. There's a beautiful stone paving underfoot, nicely maintained and really quite level. Up on this flat plateau, there's very few steps actually to navigate unless you go up a couple of the side lanes, and there is just a short little staircase. So it's such easy walking in the village, and it's so small you'll be done in about a half an hour back and forth, but linger, enjoy the views, do a little shopping, and get the most out of this very unique place. When you get hungry from all this walking around, there are various choices in Les Baux. There are some nice restaurants. There's a couple of very small hotels with restaurants with a view, or that French standby, the crepe. This little creperie was perfect because it's right on the main lane, and he makes it fresh on the griddle. And then to order, you can get ham and mushrooms and cheese. That makes a delightful lunch. Or get a sweet crepe if you've got a sweet tooth. And then you can eat the crepe while you're walking along. This is ideal finger food. It's especially nice that each crepe is made fresh, poured as batter from the pitcher onto the hot griddle, rather than having a stack of pre-made crepes sitting on the side, as you often find. And notice the complete meal you can pack into the crepe with ham and mushrooms and cheese. Or you could get a sweet crepe for dessert. Even if you were just walking by this place without any inclination of eating, if you stop and look for a moment, you are going to be tempted. Other sit-down restaurants offer a combined degustation lunch at a reasonable price. And the interiors are fascinating, providing a look into the medieval structures and sometimes a table with a view. A setting like this will definitely enhance your appreciation of the food. You might want to add one more hour into your schedule. There are a couple of tiny back alleys in Les Baux, but frankly, there's not much there. You can do a little detour if you like and go up some steps and around behind, but you'll see it's pretty plain. Generally, there's no shops and no sight to see, so you might as well spend most of your time on the main lane, just strolling back and forth. There's one particular terrace that has the nicest vista looking out across the landscape. On the map, we see again the main lanes, and there at the circle, you'll find the terrace in front of St. Vincent's Church. From the terrace, you'll clearly see the rugged Alpilles Mountains, a dramatic landscape patched with pine and cypress greenery growing on the rather barren limestone that was extensively quarried for building materials to create the city. Get a good look and take lots of photos because this is one of the only places with a great view, unless you pay admission to the Chateau up ahead, which we highly recommend. The Penitent's Chapel on this terrace stands next to the main church of town, St. Vincent's Church, which dates back to the 12th century. The facade was modified during the 19th century, and the nave was extended in 1609 while retaining the Romanesque rib barrel vaulting. The French call this kind of structure a troglodyte building because it's partly carved right into the rock, like many of the structures that you see in the village and also up at the castle area, including these stone rooms that are now used as convenient garages for cars. Certainly not their original purpose. Just to the right of St. Vincent's Church is a very useful facility. It's a free public toilet, very clean. It's rather inconspicuous and out of the way, so it's never busy. Exit the terrace on the same lane between the Penitent's Chapel and the church, and you'll be back in the middle of the village. The French government did considerable renovations here in the mid-20th century under the direction of the Minister of Culture, André Malraux, to restore these historic structures to their original appearances and have created a very authentic experience for the visitor. The village had been falling apart, but is now in beautiful condition with no graffiti or trash and offering many attractions for the visitor. It's now in the exalted category of France's most beautiful villages. The slight uphill slope is easy to negotiate as you head further back into the village, and this slant enhances the drama of being in this exceptional place, like leading you right back into the Middle Ages. And no matter how deep you go into the village, there'll always be opportunity for some more shopping, and you'll find some actual artist studios here, or maybe some postcards and little bags of potpourri. Original works of art, some paintings, some handcrafted quilts from the famous fabrics of Provence. Eventually, you're going to run out of lane and end up at the Chateau de Baux-de-Provence. That's the museum and entrance to the castle. Go on into the museum lobby and have a look at the gift shop and consider whether or not you want to pay to go onto the castle site. And read the poster, which tells you, "Welcome to the Castle of Baux, ancient stronghold of the Lords of Baux, who consider themselves as the heirs of Balthazar, one of the three magi. Vestiges of the donjon, its fortified towers, vaults, and operational siege machines yield evidence of 1,000 years of history. You have come all this way and made it to the end of the road. By all means, you should carry on to see this magnificent outdoor site with its windswept plateau and lofty castle ruins perched on the highest point. They call it the Chateau, but don't expect to see a big mansion or palace because there is no complete building left out here, and yet the ruins are fascinating. The fortress, which had resisted many a siege, was of almost monolithic construction. Its ramparts, towers, staircases, banqueting halls, all carved out of the rocks. The builders have made use of the natural foundations, and the result of the artificial construction was one of the most fantastic castles that ever existed. Stroll through the shattered ruins of what had been the inner fortress, which controlled the surroundings for 100 miles all around. Not many walls are left standing here, more like the bones and foundations, so use your imagination and maybe learn some history from the free audio guide that comes with your entrance ticket. Nowadays, it's mostly in ruins, but you can imagine the grandeur they once enjoyed. A suggestion for your comfort during the castle visit: they do not have any food or drink available for sale inside the grounds, and you might want to bring your own supplies and have a picnic out on the plateau. It's really a delightful spot. Also, they do not allow re-entry. Once you leave the site, that's it. The citadel has this steep staircase. You can climb up it, but not for the faint of heart or those afraid of heights. When you climb up, you have a nice view. Surrounded mostly by olive groves out there in the distance and the Alpilles Mountains. These are kind of foothills of the European Alps, a special branch called the Alpilles. A view to the other side of the plateau illustrates how steep these cliffs are all around. As you look down into a valley with some houses people living in today, and then more mountains in the distance protecting this town on all sides. We had our picnic out at the end of this rocky plateau, surrounded by sheer cliffs. There are several reproductions of the medieval siege machines. These are huge, full-scale models that are in working order. There's a battering ram, which is a reconstruction of an instrument that wouldn't have done much good in attacking this village because it's way up high on the cliff. There's a reproduction of a giant catapult sling or trebuchet. It's the largest one in France, and it had a range of 200 meters and could fire a 200-pound load of boulders, an amazing structure that needed a small army of 60 soldiers to install and run it. This is a naturally perfect fortified site with those steep cliffs all the way around. It's no wonder the people have been living here for so long, especially back in those Middle Ages, the time of fraught and peril. They even built houses inside these stone caves that they carved themselves. The warrior knights who lived here back in the 11th century were so powerful that they commanded the entire region. Les Baux was later joined, along with Provence, to the French crown under the governance eventually of Louis XIV, and it became a center for Protestantism, but it tried to revolt and rebel away and become independent once again, and so Cardinal Richelieu led an army to attack in 1632 and ordered that the castle and its walls should be demolished. In 1642, the French struck a deal with the Grimaldi family, who were the rulers of Monaco at that time and are still the rulers of Monaco today. The Grimaldis were installed as the rulers who controlled a huge swath of what is today southern France, all the way from the Italian border and beyond to the west, beyond Les Baux. And so Les Baux has gone through these various cycles of warfare, and in the 20th century, the only real invaders have been tourists. After you've completed your visit to the Chateau, you will inevitably walk all the way through town again to get out to the main entrance. And while you're strolling, be sure to just have another look. Even if you've walked up in one direction, it's always nice to observe as you walk back in the other direction. You're going to see some new things time and again. You can see why this is the second most popular attraction in the region, after the Pope's Palace in Avignon. Then walking downhill to get out of here is so easy. you'll be able to enjoy the scene once again with this beautiful stone paving, nice, even, level surface for you to walk on, and very well-kept building. It's really quite amazing that this little village has been preserved so well. You can imagine the turbulent times that it's gone through in its history, being attacked and invaded in the Middle Ages, defending itself throughout the Renaissance, the French Revolution, storming through and burning it and knocking it down. But somehow the buildings today have survived with this great historic atmosphere. It was probably dilapidated and abandoned largely in the early 20th century before the days of mass tourism. But now, thanks to the many visitors, which represent about 100% of the economy, the place is doing very well, and it's waiting for you to discover it. If you have a rental car on your vacation, well, then you can drive to Les Baux. If you don't have a car and you're staying at a nearby town like Avignon or Arles, the best way to get to Les Baux is to take a day trip from one of the various tour providers that you can find in those cities. And the day trip will enable you to visit a few other sites in the region, such as the Pont du Gard and town of Saint-Remy, typically. Also, with the day trip, you have the advantage that you can stop and get out of the car and look back at the village from a distance. It's a marvelous vista when you're not in the town, but instead on the hills across the way, looking back at it. And you'll find that the drive getting here, while it might take you 1 hour from Avignon, for example, is a delightful scenic drive through the countryside. You'll be passing many olive groves, you'll be passing the vineyards, depending on the season. You'll have grapes in full fruit, or perhaps the fall colors, and the majestic limestone hills. We have many more movies about Provence and the south of France in our collection. We'll be taking you to the stone village of Les Baux, have some crepes, down to Nice, the beach, the old town. We'll see it during the daylight and take you back there at night. We'll be visiting historic sites and meeting the people. Pont du Gard, ancient Roman aqueduct. The quaint village of Saint-Remy will charm you on market day with street music. You'll see shop dogs and ancient arcades. The daily joy of life in the streets is one of our specialties. We'll do some downtown shopping and enjoy traditional recreation. All the best of southern France. Look for it in our collection.